Hey y'all, I'm James Wright, and welcome to my shop. Today, we're doing this. This is a very interesting planing stop that you can screw up and down to adjust height. It is really kind of interesting, and it's made by Reed Planes, the same guy who makes these. And he's offering the plans for it completely available with all of the list of hardware, as well as selling small kits with the hardware included. Really cool idea. Let's dive in and take a look at how to make this. This is actually a fun little kit, and if you buy it from Reed, it comes with the thread set, a washer, a pin, and a bolt. And that's really all the hardware you need. You can buy them by yourself, but if you do, you end up buying 5 or 10 of each. Some people are going to want a longer bolt. It allows you to have a higher stop. However, in playing with it so far, I was originally thinking I'm going to get a longer bolt for this, and then I found out I don't really need it to. There's really no reason for it to go much more than a 1/2 inch. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the 2-inch bolt on it. So we're going to use a chunk of maple for this, or at least I started out using the chunk of maple. And then when I cut into it, I found out that it has a couple soft spots on it. And the spalting on this looks good, but it was a little weaker than I wanted. So I've got this board, which I believe is Ipe. It's a cutoff from another project that I have, and it actually came from Brazil. So I'm pretty sure it's Ipe. I'm pretty sure. And it's a little over 1 inch. You want about 1 1/8-ish. You don't have to be very specific on it, just something around that. I'm going to square up one end, and then I'm going to cut it to be 2 inches by 2 inches. And just a little block out of this, and that's all we need. So we're going to rip down one side and then cross-cut on the other side to pull out this little block. Now, at this point, it's very important that this be perfectly square and exactly the same length on all sides, because you want to be able to rotate this block and be able to fit it in. And so I'm going to take it over the shooting board and shoot it back to the line. This will guarantee that each of the corners are 90 degrees, as well as I can sneak up on that 2-inch line, and I can come in with calipers and then make sure that it's right on what I want. And it ended up being 2.05, so close enough. As long as all the sides are exactly the same, that's what we want. Next, we need to find a center mark in this, and so I'm going to use a marking gauge to mark from all 4 sides, and it creates this tiny little box in the middle. And with that, I can put in an awl, mark the spot on here, and this is where I want to drill through. First thing I need to do is drill in with a larger bit, and this will be a recess for the washer to fit into. And so it only needs to go in a little ways, and then we can back it out and make sure the washer fits in there. In this case, I need to take out a little bit more, so it's set back in a little bit farther. And I just want the washer to be recessed but flush with the inside. It's not absolutely necessary that it does, in that you could have it spinning on the bottom and just have a little space in there, but it's nice to do so. Then next we're going to drill a hole for the bit, and I'm going to make this one a little oversized because I wasn't quite sure about my sizing. I wish I'd made it a little bit tighter, but a little oversized is okay. On the other side, we're going to chamfer it and try and get a good centered hole, and this will allow the bolt to sink in and disappear below the top of the block. We want the bolt to be down a 1/16 inch or so, so when planing, we're not going to hit anything. Next, we need to drill a hole in the block, and so I used a file to create a flat spot on here, and then we can come in with a bit and drill all the way through it. Seems difficult, but honestly it's pretty easy. I drilled the hole down just a little bit farther than I probably should have, and that made it harder for the pin to get in. But with a little brute force, violent manipulation, and proper persuasion, the pin eventually made it through, and it rests inside. And so the pin will actually rest down on the wood underneath. And so just like that, it can work. Now we need to actually create the hole in the bench. And first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same bit to drill a hole recessed straight down. And this will allow the bolt to stick down below. I'm going to mark out exactly how the block fits in the wood. Drilling that hole allowed me to get the block down to the surface so I can mark it out. And then I'm going to remove most of the waste with a few drill bits. And in this case, I wasn't quite sure how deep, and so I can use my depth meter, my depth measurer, my depth stick, depth gauge, there's the word, and we can use that to figure out how deep it is, and then I can put the bit back in, put a flag on it, and this will allow me to drill down. Unfortunately, the flag betrayed me, and I really wish I had used my better depth stop, so I thought, no, with the time I have, I'll just stick a flag on it. And this one actually caused some issues. So after drilling it all out, then we can come in with a chisel and chop out the waste. And this is really my favorite part. This is where things just start popping out and having a bit of fun. You're going to want to stay away from your lines as long as possible. Keep clear of them as much as you possibly can, and then sneak up on your line. Now, you do want a little bit of a gap on here for expansion and contraction. So if you are doing this in the really moist time of the year when the wood has all expanded, you might want to leave a little bit larger gap so that when it dries out, it doesn't crush back on this. You want to leave a little bit of wiggle room so that things can to move around. But in most shops, it's pretty well stable for something that's about 2 inches, so it's not something you have to worry about that much. So I left just a little bit under 1/16 of an inch all the way around the block so that it will slide down in and work in. Next, we're going to be drilling out a hole for the threaded insert to fit into. And at this point, you want to use the demon-possessed sucking machine. It will allow you to remove the chips magically so you can actually see down into the hole. Now, again, I had to come back through and widen it out just a hair to make it slide down in there. And so now it will fit down in, except for there's some hunk of junk that is stopping it, so I had to come back and clean that out. And then, oh, look at that, now it fits down. I flipped it in upside down so that I can pull it back out because I don't have it threaded in yet. But this will let you know, oh yeah, there's a little bit more to take out there. But then magically it fits down in. Happiness! So we need to get the thread insert, and I drilled a test drill earlier to make sure it would work down in there. And now we can crank it down in, and I want to have it as high as possible so that when it comes down, the pin rests on it. But I don't want it so far down that I don't have much thread engagement. And then we can give this a test. And I found out my screwdriver has a problem. Okay, so now there's a bunch of other things you could put on this. As you can see here, there's other faces with sandpaper or notches. I'm going to leave it as a square right now, although I may end up putting more notches on it and other things in the future. And I like the idea of some sandpaper on there to add a little bit of grip. But I'm going to test it and play around with it with just the raw wood. As I said before, you don't need it to be that high. Most of the time when I'm using a planing stop, I'm doing something that's less than 3/4 inch. And this right now will go up to 3/4 inch. It wouldn't work as well if I'm doing something really tall, if I were trying to edge a joint. But in that case, I have my other one that I can put up to 8 to 10 inches. So if you really wanted this one to go up that high, you would need a really long bolt, and then all the force would be on that bolt, and it wouldn't work out well. So here you can see I'm trying with this one, which actually has a rocking bottom. But even that actually works kind of well. But if I'm doing even thin stock, I can run this down in and then put that right up against it, and it actually works really well. And that way I know that if I go into the stop itself, I'm just hitting wood. The bolt is recessed down below the top, so I'm not going to have a problem with that fitting in there. So all the plans for this are available. They're for free down below, and you can go and download those. And yeah, it's kind of an interesting idea. I like this. It's a way that it's very easy to set up and down. It's wood, so when you plane over it, you're not going to have a problem. You can adjust the height very easily. It's filled all the spaces, so dust isn't getting down underneath it. I don't have to worry about it clogging up. When I want to push this one down or one of the other ones, a lot of junk gets in there. I have to clean it up before I can push it down. This one's actually really nice with that. So Jeff from Reed Planes is coming up with all sorts of interesting ideas, and he is kind of reinventing woodworking, putting some new things into it. If you don't know who he is, he's the guy who's made the plane parts for the adjustment screws to get rid of all the slop, and really take a basic Stanley plane and really soup it up and make it nice, kind of hot rodding the planes. So he has a lot of hardware and things like that that you can get to make a regular plane much better. And he is regularly bringing other ideas to me, such as the planing stop or pinch rods and other things that he's wanting to bring to market. And so this was just a fun one for him to sketch up. He drew up these plans and is providing them for anyone who wants them, so you can actually download these. There's a link down there. Really, really cool. It has all the hardware on there, so you can go buy it. It has a bolt, a threaded insert, a clevis pin, and a washer. That's all you need to make this, so you can go and get them at the hardware store. Or if you just want to get them all in one kit rather than buying 5 of each as you would have to get, he is selling them in sets. So really cool idea, and I like what Jeff's doing with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing some of the other projects he has. Now what I did on this one is just the basic design. You can also put in extra shapes on there. I was also thinking I could make it longer. Rather than making it square, I could make it go halfway across the bench and put in 1 or 2 of those so that I'd have a longer planing strap across the bench that I could adjust to an exact height. There's just a lot of things about this and other ways I could take it that I'm really looking forward to seeing what other people do with this and what other ideas come into it. So if you do have any other ideas, thoughts, snide remarks, comments, leave those down below. I do want to say thank you to everyone who hits comment, like, share, and subscribe. Those do help us get in front of more people. Thank you for that. On top of it, everyone who's scrolling over to the side, they are the patrons on Patreon. And with patrons as well as members who've clicked the join button down below, this channel keeps on going. So thank you. Without members and patrons, this channel wouldn't exist. We are completely sponsored by you, the viewer. Thank you. If you'd like to find out more, there's links to Patreon down below, or click the little join button. And I think that'll do it for now. Until next time, have a wonderful day. This is a planing stop, also known as a crash.